survivors, and welcome to Survivor's Guild, the only channel that determines your odds of surviving 2017's swimming spot soiree slasher, Pool Party Massacre. So stay tuned till the end for your survival stats. I'm your sharp-dressed slasher turned bikini-clad babe, GhostFake. Now I hope you like pool parties where no one ever uses the pool, cause this movie is getting spoiled. Pool Party Massacre, written and directed by Drew Marvick, and starring Kristin Noel McKusick, Margaux Némé, Alexis Adams, Destiny Faith Nelson, Crystal Stoney, Jenifer and Drew Marvick, Mark Justice, and Nick Byer. Pool Party Massacre is about Blair and her friends as they attempt to have a poolless party, but guests keep disappearing. We open up to the Pinker's pool repair arriving at the Stevens residence to clean the pool, when Mrs. Stevens comes out to sunbathe and seduce.
Hey, Mrs. Stevens.
Oh, it's Miss Stevens this weekend.
Unfortunately for her, the pool boy barely notices her over his loud music and leaves after finishing his job. But when she hears someone come through the gate, she assumes it's the pool boy returning to clean her pool. But it turns out to be a mystery slasher who mystery slashes her throat, cleaning her pool into the meat bank at deposit number 1. Before we get an 8-bit opening sequence with Horse the Band. And when we return from the credits, it is revealed that the pool boy has also been murdered, quitting his job the hard way at deposit number 2. Cut over to the next house over, where we get introduced to Blair, who is saying goodbye to her parents as they get ready to leave for their flight.
Try not to get pregnant.
You are so dumb.
And Nancy, whom Blair's parents like more than their own daughter, before they lay down some rules, namely no hard drugs, no going into their bedroom, and no threesomes, which Blair's mom relents on.
I mean, if it weren't for threesomes, we never would have met.
We find out that Nancy is just visiting from grad school, and that Blair's parents believe that Blair is wasting her life because she is so privileged, and that Nancy was the only one of her friends that they actually liked.
You are the only friend Blair's ever had that we really liked.
And that had she not been visiting, they would have called their son Blaine to watch the house for them. But they trust Nancy to keep everything under control. The Winthorpes leave, and Blair and Nancy head into the house. Blair puts the dog in her parents' room before she hears a knock at the door.
Oh, what now?
It turns out to be Danny, who is wearing a Horse the Band shirt, so he must be awesome. And the two have a little exchange about a previous fling they had, wherein the two made out when Danny worked for her parents mowing the lawn. But afterward, Blair told everyone that he forced himself on her and got him fired, as well as got him a bad reputation around town. We find out that Nancy is his stepsister and that he was just dropping by to see her, hearing that she was going to be in town and that she would probably be at Blair's. She refuses to let him see her and then burns him about his dead alcoholic dad.
Drink yourself to death like your daddy did.
What the f*** did you just say?
Burning Danny's dad into the meat bank at deposit number 3. Blair shuts the door on him and goes and tells Nancy that her stepbrother dropped by, but that she just wouldn't let trailer trash into her house. Nancy calls her out and reminds her that she knows what really happened between them.
It is true. I was the victim, how dare you?
And that she was there when it happened. And she reveals that she didn't try to clear Danny because she really wanted to stay in the in crowd, and that's a decision that she regrets. We cut over to the garage, wherein the killer is replacing his murder weapon and grabbing another. Meanwhile, Blair's friends show up for the pool party, and we get introduced to Tiffany, Jasmine, Brittany, and Kelly, each one as obnoxious and entitled as Blair, and the group heads out to sit by the pool. While inside the house, Nancy grabs the champagne and is stalked by the intruder. But back outside, Kelly gets unwarranted advice from her frenemies when she gets a text from her boyfriend accusing her of cheating on him. They first tell her to break up with the clinger before telling her that he's rich and the best that she can get, so she better just stay with him. Those are some friends.
Oh my god, you guys are right.
And she heads into the house to call him. But once inside, the killer begins sneaking up on her as she apologizes to Drew over the phone for not responding to his text fast enough. And when she hangs up the phone, the killer uppercuts her with the claw of the hammer, clawing her into the meat bank at deposit number 4, before staging her on the couch so that nobody notices. Cut back over to the girls, where Tiffany mentions that she's invited her boyfriend Troy to join them, to the protest of the others, since this was supposed to be a girls-only party. And we here find out that Tiffany stole Troy from Blair back in the 8th grade, and that her and Troy just recently got back together and plan on having make-up sex and need Blair's house to do it.
You is talking about me?
Just then, Troy and his brother Clay show up to bring down the vibe of the party, and when Blair tells him to leave, he does, taking Tiffany with him and walking straight into the house, while Clay hits on the girls.
If I had been held back for just one more year, you and I would have gone to high school together.
Meanwhile, in the garage, the killer is picking up a new weapon, and their next-door neighbor, Dora, comes over to tell them to turn down their loud music. But when no one answers the door, she heads around to the fence but runs into the killer, who pickaxes her into the meat bank at deposit number 5. And while Troy and Tiffany get kinky, the killer swaps out his pickaxe for just a regular axe and heads inside. And outside, Clay continues trying to woo the ladies. Cut back into the house where Troy and Tiffany wrap it up, and Troy heads downstairs to order a pizza and to grab a beer, without untying Tiffany. But the killer watches from across the hall and waits for Troy to get down the stairs, before he heads into the room, where he cuts off Tiffany's head with an axe, heading Tiffany into the meat bank at deposit number 6. Just then, Troy comes back upstairs and discovers Tiffany's dead body, before discovering the killer, and then discovering an axe in his head, axing Troy into the meat bank at deposit number 7. And again, the killer heads into the garage to get a new weapon. Meanwhile, back outside, Clay attempts to convince Nancy of a crazy Ferris Bueller conspiracy theory.
Ferris Bueller? He's just a figment of Cameron's imagination.
And he gives a pretty good argument, if I do say so myself, making the comparison between Fight Club and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But Nancy annihilates him using facts and logic. But Clay gives a rebuttal before inviting her inside to watch the movie, and Nancy calls him out for his elaborate pickup line.
An elaborate pickup line?
Okay, yes, maybe.
And when Nancy isn't having it, Clay takes his discussion to Brittany. And when Brittany isn't having it, they insult him enough that he heads inside to sprinkle his seed all over her house. He goes inside and finds some inspiration before he heads into the bathroom and gets to work. And as the killer heads over to the bathroom to finish off Clay, the doorbell rings. So the killer goes to answer it, finding at the door the pizza guy, Chet.
Did you order a pizza, brah?
Delivering Troy's pizza. He doesn't pay for the pizza, but he gives him a tip anyway.
Dude, cash talks or the pizza walks, bro.
And delivers Chet into the meat bank at deposit number 8, before heading to the garage for a new weapon. The killer heads back to the bathroom while Clay continues working things out. And the killer drills through the wall and directly into Clay, drilling Clay into the meat bank at deposit number 9, before the killer goes to the garage to get another weapon. Cut back to outside where Nancy complains that this pool party doesn't have enough pool, and Jasmine explains that her hairstyle is far too expensive to jeopardize by getting close to the pool. And while Nancy goes for a swim, Brittany and Jasmine head inside to fill their drinks. But the two of them, who have never waited on themselves, just start throwing together a self-deposit cocktail. Jasmine tries to shake it but doesn't put the lid on the strainer and accidentally splashes the drink on herself, so she heads upstairs for a gratuitous shower. But the killer arrives to trim her shower short, trimming Jasmine into the meat bank at deposit number 10. And the killer heads into the garage for his next weapon. Brittany heads upstairs to find Jasmine, and find her she does, before finding the killer and running away from him. She hides in a bedroom and locks the door, but when the killer tries to come in, she stands against the door and tries to call 911. But before she can hit send, the killer stabs through the door and through Brittany, door hanging Brittany into the meat bank at deposit number 11. Back outside, Nancy tells Blair that she should probably check on her guests, before the two of them have a heart-to-heart about the pressure to fit in, and about being true to yourself and to your friends. But when Nancy mentions what could possibly be happening in Blair's room, she storms into the house to stop it. Nancy sits down on the patio couch and waits for Blair to return, but the killer shows up first and knocks her out, and then drags her into the house. Meanwhile, Blair looks around her house for her friends and runs down the hallway when she hears the door close. She walks into a room and Clay's body falls onto her. She gets him off of her and discovers that she has entered the room where they put all their dead bodies. I call mine the Morgporium, before she notices the killer, who is none other than Drew Marvick, the writer and director of this movie? Oh, sorry, wrong person. None other than Blaine, Blair's brother.
Asshole!
Whoa, wait, what did I do?
Blair goes off on him for putting a dead body against the door to fall on her, and he defends his decision by drawing inspiration from 80s horror movies.
You couldn't open anything back then without a dead body falling out of it.
We here find out that Blair hired her brother to kill her friends.
Are you doing perverted shit with my dead friends?
No, I mean, a little bit.
And Blair calls him out on all the collateral damage, like their neighbors and the pizza guy. But Blaine says that he's not done yet, telling her that he's finally found something he's good at. And while they discuss what to do next, Nancy wakes up. She grabs the pizza guy's phone and texts her brother to call the police, before she gets up and runs out of the room. She tries to leave the house, but can't get out the door, so she runs upstairs.
Really, Nancy? The stairs. So typical.
Where Blaine corners her. But while he monologues, she takes the machete from the door and runs it through him, causing him to fall to the floor. She runs back downstairs, but Blair is blocking the door. No fair, no puppy guarding. So she runs back to the Morgporium, where Blair corners her with an axe, explaining that she killed her friends because they were awful. Well, that's understandable. And that now she'll be the sole survivor of a pool party massacre, and she'll get a whole bunch of new friends and a bunch of attention. And when she goes to finish off Nancy, her axe gets stuck in the bed frame, and Nancy hits her over the head with Tiffany's severed head, before grabbing the axe and chopping Blair into the meat bank at deposit number 12. Nancy then somberly leaves the room, before somberly leaving the house, before it's revealed that Blaine is still alive, and the movie ends. Now let's take a look at our main characters and the death that surrounds them to determine your odds of surviving this movie. We start off our meat bank deposits with Mrs. Stevens, getting her pool cleaned the hard way at deposit number 1, followed by the pool cleaner who was definitely killed first at deposit number 2, followed by the news of Danny's dead drunk dad at deposit number 3. Kelly then hammers into the meat bank at deposit number 4, followed by Dora nosy neighboring into the meat bank at deposit number 5. Tiffany kinks in at deposit number 6. Troy heads into the meat bank at deposit number 7. Chet, the pizza delivery dude, delivers into our meat bank at deposit number 8. Clay power drills into the meat bank at deposit number 9. Jasmine showers in at deposit number 10. Brittany makes a cool door ornament at deposit number 11. And we wrap up our meat bank deposits with Blair stabbing her friends in the back before her friends stab back with an axe at deposit number 12 into our meat bank. Now let's take a look at our survivors. We've got Nancy, Blaine, and Danny, which means that out of a total of 15 characters, only 3 survive, giving you a 20% chance of surviving this movie. Given those odds, which tool commonly found in the garage will Blaine use to take you out? Let me know in the comments below. And make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of my future videos. And a huge thanks to my patrons for making my pool party a success. Alrighty guys, as always, thanks and don't die.